Single, a mom, an entrepreneur, juggling it all and talking about topics while on the go. Hi, I'm Lisa Waldron, and this is GO10LISA Podcast. Are you ready to listen to the best podcast that's real, inspiring, and sometimes cringe? Okay, get ready, get comfy, and go! Hello, everyone. I am Lisa Waldron, and this is On the Go. If you have been listening to a couple of the On the Goes for season 24, in one of them, I gave you guys the heads up that I will be coloring my hair because I was like a little bit tired of it. I wasn't taking care of my hair. So guess what? Not only did I color my hair, but I cut it all off, guys. Yeah, so I do have a hair channel on YouTube. It is called Not Too Late Natural Hair. So you can check out the videos there. But I went and did something out there as well. Not only did I cut my hair, I noticed that my hair has a lot more gray in it all of a sudden, even though I had the blonde color in my hair for a long time. So I put back the blonde. But I was like, you know what? Everybody has blonde. I want something different. So guess what color my hair is now? It's kind of a reddish pink. It's all over the place, but it's short. I don't know what I look like. I think I have to get used to it. I went into the store and all the guys were like looking at me. I guess they were like, I always feel this way when I have a low haircut. I always feel like I look like a boy, but for some strange reason, I get more compliments. I don't know, maybe because they feel like I have the confidence and I'm rocking it. Let me tell you something, people. I had to hold my head up high when I went to the store because I'm like, even though it wasn't looking its best, it's raining, I was wet and everything, I'm like, I'm still going to hold my head up. I don't care what color it is looking like right now because the front, a little bit of the front looks pink and the rest of it is like a crimson red. So I'm just like, it almost looks like a burgundy, but it's not a burgundy. It's a hot, like reddish pink color, but the color is actually crimson red. But anyway, guys, I'm like, I don't care. It's going to outgrow, and when my hair starts growing back, it will be black. Well, my hair is not black, but it will be my natural hair color, and it would be a little bit of hints of gray in there. So I think it will blend in kind of nicely. But let me tell you something. Having the red hair color is the messiest hair color there is to put into your hair. And I did it all by myself. And I used to do it a little bit when I was younger. I've had red in my hair before, like I think 2 or 3 times. I want to say 2 times before when I was younger. And but you just have to be so careful when dyeing your hair red because it does stain. So I was like super cautious. So I was doing everything in my downstairs bathroom because I didn't want like my whole shower or my whole bathtub to be stained red. So I can deal with the downstairs bath sink a little bit stained, but that's easier to wash out than to wash out the entire 2 things upstairs. And I was just like, oh my goodness, how is this going to go? And then, of course, when I was doing my hair, I totally messed up because the box that I was doing my hair in, the instructions weren't clear. I didn't know what I was doing, which is kind of weird. This was my first time trying this brand. It was on sale. And then afterwards, it was funny because late in the night, I heard a noise. And I was like, what is that noise? What is that noise? Because I had mixed part of the concoction together and left it in the bottle and never used it. And apparently it exploded. So it was just like, oh my goodness. So I was like, this is not clear instructions. They should have wrote specifically. I guess they kind of did, but they didn't. But then the end wasn't clear. Oh, I'm just rambling on because it was just like it was a learning thing, and that's what it is in life. Sometimes you have to go through something in order for you to know what not to do next. Can anyone relate? Hello. Now, on to today's episode. Hello everyone. Welcome to GO10LISA podcast. I'm your host, Lisa Waldron, and this is season 24, episode 8, title Eviction. I may change the title later on, I don't know, but it's Eviction. So I wanted to talk about eviction. What exactly is eviction? What am I talking about? You've heard it, maybe not. Eviction is the action of expelling someone, especially a tenant, from a property. Has anyone ever been evicted? Do you know someone that has been evicted? So, let me tell you what's going on. And if I sound congested, listen, guys, the allergies, the pollen actually in Georgia is on a extreme high. Um, it's like 3 of the 5 things that affect me very, very badly were blooming this week. And I am so congested. On top of that, I have hay fever. But yeah, guys, that's what's going on. So if I sound a little bit congested, I have my tea here. Let's get started on this episode because I feel like that word is has been in people's head lately. Maybe they've heard it a long time ago, but I think it's becoming more recurrent. So I think people have been thinking about that since the pandemic happened, because there were lots of jobs lost. There was lots of uncertainty. There was a lot of sicknesses. There was a lot of stuff going on in the past few years, especially with the start of 2020. And now we're in 2024, and this is season 24, right, of GO10LISA podcast. So, in case you aren't aware how my podcast works, it is that I do 10 episodes per season. Then I take a 3-week break and then come back with a brand new season. That's how come we're at 24. And in May, it will be 6 years for the podcast. So yeah, time is flying. And because time is flying, we don't realize that we're getting older, our circumstances change, things change. But yeah, guys, so like I said, the thought did cross my mind. I've been hearing stories of families having to live with other family members because everything is on the rise. Inflation, food, gas, you name it, everything. Even bleach, even cooking oil, even something as mac and cheese, you name it, everything is on the rise. Everything. And some of it is just out there, and we're just, I don't want to say idiots, but I think we're just paying it, and we're not putting back a resistance to say, no, we're not going to pay it to force the economy. But is it really the economy that force the people who are producing these things, who are raising it to an extremely high price, to lower it? I don't even think people are having sales. With all that being said, how is one supposed to afford where they're living to the point that they don't get evicted? Eviction, evicted, you know what I mean? So, this is what's going to happen. I'm going to break it down from a renter's point of view and also from an owner's point of view. Renting means that you rent a space, whether you're renting an apartment, you're renting a room, you're renting a studio, apartment is still the same thing. From an owner's point of view, you're leasing, you're paying mortgage on your house. It's a lot. It is a lot going on in the past couple of years, or maybe it's been a lot for a lot of people. how do we turn it around? How do we help one another? The one thing about my podcast that I if you've been listening since day one, you notice that the intro has changed, but the message has still been the same. My platform, the podcast, GO10LISA podcast, it's a space for people, it's a space for me to share stuff with you that could be helpful. Sometimes I do pop culture and I do talk about stuff that's going on out there in the world. Some of it I care about, some of it I don't, sometimes it's interesting. But it's like coming from a place from a single woman's point of view, from a mom's point of view. Those are things that I am. From a woman's point of view, from an entrepreneur point of view, things to help out one another, because at the end of the day, knowledge is power, and it's all about helping out one another, right? So it's like, how would I know half the stuff that's going on if I didn't listen to someone else and then did my own research, you know what I mean? And then look into it. But like I said, the thought did cross my mind, because I think I told the story before, a long time ago, maybe earlier in my podcast series, but I'll say it again since it pertains to this particular episode. So here I am, that I have been living in Georgia, the state of Georgia, for 18 years now. And let me just do the math. When did I move here? Yeah, it will be 18 years. This year will be 18 years. And when I first moved down here, I stayed with one of my aunts for a couple of weeks until, my apartment was ready. I was so blessed the way everything worked out with that as well. It was like a miracle, guys, because it was like everything was just rushed, got in, I think I explained it, but I'm not going to talk about that today. But be sure to check out previous episodes of my podcast. But I stayed with my aunt, one of my aunts down here, for a couple of weeks, and until my apartment was ready. And then I moved into my apartment. So here I am. I had my son with me, and basically, okay, I'm getting stuffed up again. And basically, I have rented before because, I am an adult. I have a child. And I have responsibilities. So my son is, a little bit less than 10, and a few years less than 10, and here I am just renting. But for some strange reason, even though the apartment was less money than what I was paying in Florida, I don't know if it was just me getting adjusted, me getting caught up a little bit in what the Joneses have, and I wasn't really going out there and spending a lot. I think it had to do with aftercare. I think he was in aftercare. It was like the traffic. It was lunch from work. It was a whole different kind of vibe and setting, because compared to Florida. Because with Florida, I have lots of friends and family. I have minimal friends and family here in Georgia, but that wasn't even it. It was more like the rent was cheaper. I don't know if it was the activities, because he didn't really start sports activities and stuff where I was dishing out a lot of money then. But I don't know what it was, but I got behind. Maybe it was the car payment and all the other stuff, because it was kind of but I had car payment. Anyway, guys, I got a little bit behind, and for some reason, I don't know what I was thinking, but when you are renting, your rent is due, according to the lease that you pay, your rent is due the first of every month, right? So basically, I think I was 3 days late. I didn't notify the management or whatever, because I was saying, I was trying to match it up with my paycheck or something. I don't remember what was the reason. I was thinking that, because I was living paycheck to paycheck, if you know, then go. And I think it was the move in. Oh, I think it was me just buying new furniture, buying new stuff. Um, you know, I don't remember what it was, but I think that was the bulk. That's the only big thing I can remember was like buying um, new furniture, new bedding and stuff for my son, because a lot of stuff I left behind, but some stuff I did take. But anyway, guys, next thing you know, I got a notice and from the sheriff department. Now, when I moved to Georgia, I knew one of the things I liked about Georgia was that the rules were a little bit stricter. I don't know what it is about that, but I kind of like that because I felt like Florida was all over the place. Not in regards to rules, like you know what I mean. There was some kind of structure, a little bit of structure here. So, but then it's turned on me. So I was like, okay, I got so nervous and so scared because that was the first time that I ever got such notice saying that I need to pay or otherwise I will be evicted and kicked out. And I was like crying and I called my mother and I was like, "Oh my God, I can't believe this." Because I'm trying to remember if I was ever late. I don't think I was late when I was living in Florida. And mind you, I was paying more in Florida. So I don't know what it was. But anyway, guys, I got so nervous because here it was in my second year of living in Georgia, or maybe it was a year and a half, going into my second year. And I was like, I always had it in the back of my head. If anything happened and we couldn't make it or handle it, we can always go back home to Florida with the family and friends. That was always in the back of my mind, even though I had family and friends in Georgia, but the bulk of them were in Florida. So that being said, I was like, oh my gosh, I think the first thing that goes through our mind is embarrassment. That's number one. But I'm the kind of girl, I'm just like, oh my goodness, I don't care. At the end of the day, I'm going to hurry up and think about what is the next plan. So if I got a notice on Monday, I forgot what the turnaround time was, and I was waiting on the paycheck for Friday. I think I had to have spoken to the office manager or something like that to tell her my situation. And of course, when you're in a dire need, it's like nobody have money to lend you. I didn't have any backup or any reserves because I was just living in la la land. I was just living in a new area. I don't know. I don't know. I was just like whatever. So it taught me a lot of things because also in that moment, I remember it was in 2007, and that was the roughest year back then because it was like in that year, I really had to cut back. I had to really look at my expenses. And we did a lot of praying. And I said to my son, and I'll never forget it, I said, let's say a prayer, and he started praying and he was like, help us, Lord, in this time of need. And I told this story before and I was wrong. And I kind of giggled and laughed because I was in shock. I was in shock that he can pray like we're in need. Like he recognized that age that we were in need and praying out to God that we were in need, and we were in need. So I was the bad parent by even laughing. And I had to explain to him, I'm not laughing at you. I'm just in shock that you're praying, and here it is. I am praying years later, help us, Lord, because we're in need. You know what I mean? So don't ever do like me and laugh. I laugh at everything, but not everything like that. It was just a shock laugh. But anyway, I told the story before, but man, that like woke me up to say that, oh, whatever. But then later on in years, I think during the pandemic years, things got a little bit rough, but this time it was for my house. And, but during the pandemic time, they had, stuff to help you as far as if you're going to be a little bit late, but with a house, let me explain how a house works. With a house, your mortgage is also due on the first. But with a house, you do have a grace period of 15 days. If you pay past 15, then you're going to be paying a late charge or whatever. And if you go past 2 or 3 months, then they will report you when you're late, regardless if you're renting or if you're owning a house. And if you go past, I think it's 2 or 3 months, then they will start the process of evicting you. You know what I mean? With renters, your rent is due the first of the month. Some places may give you a grace period of 3 days to say that you're late. Read your lease, because your lease outlines everything. The lease may be a whole bunch of stuff that you may not care about, but read the section where it pertains to payment of your rent, and also when you're moving out, because those are key as well, especially if you paid a deposit. A lot of people pay deposits when they're moving into an apartment, especially if they're young people and they've never moved in anywhere before. They want to believe that you can make the payments, so they're going to ask for a whole bunch of documentations. They want proof of that you work and that you can pay it, and they want a deposit just in case if you damage their place or whatever the case may be. But I was one of those tenants where I read my lease at the end, because I was also in the process of buying my house and closing on my house. But what happened with my closing of my house was it coincided, or it should have coincided, with my end of lease date. So yeah, but because there were holidays involved and the people doing my closing took off on vacation, oh, it was a hot mess. But it all worked out, to the point that the lady that was working with me to get my house, she was kind of putting a rush on things, and she made exceptions. And end the story, I got my house. But it had to coincide, and I had to read my lease. And the lease said that if I lived in the apartment for a long time, which we did for 5 years, that it's expected that it's not going to be 100% perfect. So that being said, you are entitled to your deposit. I try to make it as how I got it, but the only things were little holes in the wall because I was hanging picture stuff and hanging up stuff, which is in the lease. And people, you need to read your lease. I've seen family members who just, when they're moving out, just leave the place dirty. And I was like, what are you doing? Go get back your deposit money. It's your money. You don't just leave it. That's not the way that they gave it to you. Some people are just different. So the reason why I'm bringing up all of this is to share my story with you, and to share that the thought did cross my mind. It will always be in my mind, because anything can happen, guys. Anything can happen. It could be like you're in a family, and there is one breadwinner bringing in the money. Suppose that person die, they get sick. How are you going to pay the mortgage or rent? You may be in the same situation. There's so many different circumstances that can happen. You try to have like a fail-proof plan to prevent stuff like that from happening, but you just don't know. So I think that everyone should be thinking about it, and you should be thinking about what is your plan if something like that happens, right? What is your plan? Like I said, even though I was in the midst of crying to my mother, I was like, oh my God, I've never gotten this before. Like when I was renting, my first time renting here in Georgia, and I was like, boy, they're strict over here, like the sheriff office. So I had to quickly go online, look up the research, because every state, every county, everybody does things differently, but there's still some kind of commonality there. So I had to quickly do my research, and I was like, whoa, they don't joke. And I was like, Does that mean I'm going to go to jail? God forbid. What's going to happen to my child? And, these are things that I think about. And I'm like, oh my goodness. So I just hurried up and paid, guys. I just made it happen to the point that I was like, I hope I'm never ever in this situation again. To the point that they're going to have to put, excuse me, put this, you know, this happen again, But like I said, the thought is there, especially now that I'm in my home. And during the pandemic, I'm seeing all of my neighbors selling their house. Things did get a little bit behind for us as well. And I'm looking at, okay, what's going to happen if, I'm doing the what if. What's going to happen if this happened? What's going to happen in case of a fire? Do you guys think about that? What is the first thing that you grab in a fire? God forbid that happens, but it's like, what do you think about when you're faced with an emergency, right? These are just things. And I'm the kind of person where, I'm not really into materialistic things, but I'm into the important sentimental things. And if it's a case of a fire, of course, you make sure that everyone is out. Everyone should have a plan as what to do in case of a fire, where the safety area is. So therefore nobody's going back in the house looking for a family member. Everyone should do a fire drill. Let's put it like that. And everyone should be talking out their situations to their family. I've talked about this in another episode before. I think once your kid is 18, 21, you should be discussing some important stuff with them, as far as, you just need to start opening up the lines of communication. So, why is this coming up now? Like I said, it's been happening for the past couple of years. I'm seeing more and more people, being moved in, I have a very good friend, my BFF in Florida, and she's always been the kind of person where if somebody's in need or want a place to stay, she will always open up her doors. And I've said it before, like, I wish I was more like her. I will open up my doors, but it's like I would have to set the rules and guidelines. I think what's been happening in my family, and I see with my friends as well, is that when friends or family members move in with them, they don't set the rules and guidelines right up the beginning. And then there's a whole bunch of confusion, and there's a whole bunch of animosity, and there's a whole bunch of this and that. And all of that could just be avoided if you just treat it like a business, but not really like a business, but yet be compassionate. You're going to have to work it out, and it starts with communication. So why is all this coming up again? Well, you're listening to GO10LISA podcast with Lisa Waldron, where you can find a new episode each week by typing in GO, the number 10, followed by LISA. It's all one word, GO10LISA. GO10LISA podcast can be found on any podcast app. Just type it in, see my pink hair, tune into the latest episodes. Don't forget to subscribe, tell a friend, and listen. Well, here we are in 2024, and a family member recently got evicted. I was like, wow. It's sad because they have a child, but the child is not a baby child. It's a big child. But there's so many things going on so many different levels. But, when I'm the kind of person where if you talk to me, I'm so congested right now. That's why I'm like, yeah, I'm breathing all loud. I'm the kind of person where as I'm getting older, I kind of like tame back a little bit of my opinions. I kind of tame back a little bit of how boisterous I was. I kind of tame back a little bit of how hard I am on what I say, but everything I say is valid and true. But there are some people, they know it's true also, but they don't want to accept the truth, if that makes sense. And I'm the kind of person where I love to ask questions. And then I try to put myself in people's shoes, and I kind of ask myself, if that was me, God forbid, would I want someone asking me so many questions as how I would ask questions? It's kind of like this, guys. You're talking to someone every day, or maybe every week, or something, or maybe once a month, once a year, whatever, and they don't say nothing about what the heck is going on. But here they call to say, "Oh, I need a place to stay," and what do you do? Do you just say, "Okay, come on in," or do you say, "What's going on?" I'm the what's going on person. And then I would say, "What's going on? What do you mean? Like, why didn't you say anything before?" I think people need to let go of their pride, let go of the embarrassment. We have another family member where they were so well off. I don't want to say well off like rich, but well off to the point that they were always inviting, always nice, nice family, looked up to them, they always had money and they didn't look like they were ever in need until the husband job kind of, they were doing layoffs. So they had just recently upgraded their house, and basically, right around the time all of that happened, this was before COVID, and what happened, guys, is that he was now making less money, and they couldn't afford the house that they just moved into. And basically, I love that word basically because I keep saying it. And then the job relocated them, and then the wife had to take up a job. And it was something that you would never expect the wife to do, and the job. But she was happy. Isn't that weird? She was content with her little job. And they made it happen. They ended up living in an apartment. Their kids were grown and going on their own. But the point is that they always had a love their marriage, that they always wanted each other. You know what I mean? Always loved each other. So that's the key also, is that when you're in it together, especially when you're married, you're going through the hard times. It's not all going to be hunky-dory, glorious and wonderful, and you're sustaining all the time. You're going to have hard times. Where's your spouse? Where's your partner during that time? Is your partner and you going through it together? Are you and the kids going? Whoever's in your life at the moment, are we all in it together trying to make it work? And that's what they did. They're still renting, but they're happy, and they've had other health issues come up and stuff like that. But let's get back. I'm just giving you that story to say that you just don't know what's going to happen. But it's how you bounce back. It's how you reflect on what's really important. Because sometimes we have the big houses, and it's like, how many times I've thought about just getting something smaller? Or maybe we should rent out a room, but then this doesn't work, or that doesn't work, or do we really want a stranger in the house kind of thing? I am not there. Maybe if I had a basement, I'll probably rent it out, stuff like that. And it's like, thankfully my son is helping, and I also believe that if you have grown children living in your house, they should be contributing, and I've spoken about this before, that when my son was younger and working, I didn't need the money. It was just to teach him you're going to be a man one day, and this is what you should do to help and provide. You can't just be up in somebody's house and you're running up the bills, eating up all the food, and you don't work and you don't contribute, you know? And so that's how I feel. But back to the story is that with this recent family member, it's like they got laid off. They got laid off around November, December, and didn't say a word to anybody. Not one. So the only word that was sent to others was emergency, emergency. This is on the day they're being evicted, and the sheriff is at their house telling them they have to move out. That's when they decide to pick up the phone and call someone. And I was just like, wow, wow. And then they were in shock because they didn't think that they would be evicted, even though they said that they were in communication with the office manager. So, whether that's true or not true, the point is that by law, it says in your lease that it is due on the 1st. Even if you spoke to the office manager, this is a very good point to make. Even if you're speaking with the office manager, they also have a job to do. So just like with my earlier situation, I explained my situation, but I also did my research to see what the filing time was, when they actually were going to come, and when I was actually going to have the money. So thank God it actually worked out. But I was in a panic mode because I was thinking, as far as I need to pack up all my stuff. This is how my brain operates, guys. That I was in the go. I was in the go. My mind was in go, 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 Lisa. Go come up with a plan. I'm the kind of girl that I will hurry up and get boxes. I will start packing that night, and I will do what I have to do. Some people are not like me, and some people will just sit back and don't do a thing and just think, oh, I spoke to the office manager and therefore I have her word. It's come to the point that you can't trust people. And even if you spoke to the office manager, I would have gotten that in writing. But like I said, it's kind of like a tricky situation because the lease is binding, but yet you're talking to the manager, and then you're going to say, oh, you weren't aware that you were going to be evicted. So I kind of find the story a little bit off. This is my detective brain working. Because didn't the office manager tell you that if you didn't pay, what the circumstances were? And if the office manager never told you that, then I kind of find that shady. Let's say that you just moved out of your parents' home. You just graduated from college. You don't know. It's your first apartment. You don't know. As adults, do we be courteous because we think that people have a lot on their mind and maybe they may not be aware? Or to say, if I was the office manager, I would have said, hey, just as a reminder, your lease says this. This is why I'm kind of like the book, but I'm not the book. You know what I mean? Meaning that you have to know where you stand with people. Even if I okay, let's say that I'm late with my mortgage. I'm going to ask questions. Or hope that the person on the other end of the phone or who you're communicating with is telling you information. But you should be asking questions like, okay, so when is the absolute last day that I have? What exactly is going to happen after the third day? These are key questions to ask. What's going to happen to my stuff? Oh my goodness. Well, this family member, all the furniture, only grabbed clothes, their animals, and some importance and everything else was gone just in a blink of an eye. Because it could have been saved if only there was a line of communication, I feel, or if there was a plan to say that the moment you're laid off, some people are not even getting layoff money, they're not even giving you a severance pay. Some people I've known, even when I was in the corporate world, were being laid off and don't even get severance. They're just got the notice and they're just out of money just like that. I think as a courtesy, some companies are giving you severance, so therefore you don't sue them or, whatever the case may be. But like I said, this is in a different state, different rules, different counties, different so and so. You know what I mean? But anyway, let's talk a little bit more about the eviction. So that's what's happening. So I felt like people need to know more because they're going through it and a lot of people don't know. But look at your lease, look at your mortgage papers, talk to other family members. Don't be ashamed to talk about it. And there is an eviction process. There is an issuance of written possession in the state of Georgia. I looked it up. It is 7 days. Then you need to ask yourself, can you fight it? Then you got to think about, if you have kids, if you have pets, because there are some restrictions and some guidelines that may or may not be in your documentation as far as eviction with pets, because the pet society don't want the pets to be out in the street because you're evicted. So you need to look into that. Look into who your family and friends are and ask them if they can stay with you. Then you see who's really for you or who can help you. And then, can they potentially, but here it is also when you have pets. You have pets, but now you're asking family members and friends if you can stay with them until you can get back on your feet. Suppose that family member or friend is renting and you're bringing your pets with you. This is a tough situation. You know I love my babies. You know I love my dogs. But then you're bringing your animals, whatever they may be, into another space that somebody's doing for you as a favor. But you don't want to separate yourself from your animals, from your pets. So now you're putting that family member and friend in a tough situation because now they're allergic to those pets or don't like those pets. What are you going to do? But you're thinking, because they're family, they must help you out. Must they really help you out because they're family? Or do you say, I know this is hard, whatever. I will make sure the animals are not something. Because now you're putting that family member or friend into the same situation as you to be evicted. Because if they're renting, they also have a lease. And the lease has something to do with the pets. Because if the lease says that you are not allowed pets, and here it is, they find out that you have people staying with you who have pets, they're now on the brink of being evicted. All because you didn't want to make arrangements or take care of your pets that you're bringing onto somebody. Oh my God, it's just a hot mess. And this is literally what's happening. This is literally what's happening in the world, people. So there are resources out there. There are disaster relief programs. I remember something like that in the corporate world that they had and that people can contribute to. They have it in every state or should have it in every state. They have temporary shelters for women and children. But then you ask yourself, where do the men go? If they have a lot of shelters for women and children, what about the men? What about the young boys? I saw a young guy, a good-looking young guy, rummaging through the garbage years ago in my area, and he was homeless. And I always wonder, what's their story? Like I said, you don't know in a blink of an eye what can happen. Half the people that are homeless have nothing to do with drugs. It's just one thing, or somebody not helping them, or they don't want to help themselves. I don't know. It's whatever the situation, or their parent got sick, died, they were the breadwinner. There's so many different circumstances, right? So let's dig a little more into what I had here. Hold on a second here. So yeah, guys, so that's going to be the thing too. Do you look like a bad person because you don't take in that person also? These are questions you have to ask yourself, or do you help them for a little bit? But it's all about communicating. I can only help you for a couple of weeks. Or if someone's going to stay with you long term, give them a set date. You have 3 months, you have 6 months, you have 2 weeks, a month, whatever. You know what I mean? Set rules and guidelines. I'm sorry if I sound so harsh, but you're being helpful, but we're now at a time and a period where we don't want to stress each other out. You know what I mean? So it's like, and I think if you are the person being evicted, you should have some kind of respect and some kind of graciousness and thankfulness. Oh my goodness, it's just the stories that I'm just hearing out there. It's just out this world. So I decided to go on Reddit because I want to look up the eviction, and I wanted to see what's out there, what other people are talking about. And yeah. Somebody wrote, how long after eviction notice until the sheriff comes to remove you? And this was posted on Reddit, and someone said, someone wrote, as someone else said, don't fight it, skip. It's better to end up owing more money than just moving out and handing over keys than it is to have an eviction on your record. Oh, I forgot about that. So now it's on your record if you get evicted. Because if it's on your record, that means that other apartments can see that you were evicted somewhere else, because maybe they're going to check and see, oh, I wonder if that goes on their credit report. How would the other apartment know? It's like there's another site for all apartments to check. Interesting. It will go on your record. After the date on the notice, it will take about 2 to 3 weeks for a court date, and then about 3 days leeway to move out from the judge. And then the sheriff comes to force you out. But longer you wait, the more you will upset the landlord, who is under zero obligation to take funds or remedy the situation further, the issue further. Like I said, there is a process. What I got was just the letter threat and saying if I didn't pay it within, there is a process. You just have to look into it. And it also says, but let the landlord know you are just going to move out ASAP. Leave the place in good condition and hope the landlord goes easy on fees. As a property manager, if you make my life easy, I will waive the fees. If not, it's the click of a button to keep fees. That sounds harsh, but I had someone wait until the day the sheriff was supposed to be out, and they handed keys in a huge mess an hour before the sheriff was scheduled. They still have an eviction on their record and now owe fees and fines also. Oh boy. So it really does go into, it's not just about you moving out, what's going to happen to your stuff. The fees will now be for them to remove all of your stuff, put it in the trash. This is why people go to the dumpsters now and pick up good furniture, because people are being evicted. There was a neighborhood I was in the other day, and what they also do in Georgia that I've seen, I was asking my son the other day if he's seen it before. And guess what they do? They put all your stuff out on the front lawn. This is for a house. So you could be driving down a neighborhood and see everybody's front. You see this one house, all their furniture is on the front lawn. That's what they do. Okay? So, in kind of a way, it's better because then you can come and pick up your stuff. But it's bad because then suppose it rain or snow, then it's just a hot mess, whichever way you look at it, guys. It's a hot mess. And then, so somebody else wrote, did the landlord give the tenant a notice to vacate before they filled with the courts? If no, the landlord is already going about this incorrectly. This is the Texas. Oh, so now we're talking. This is what I said. Different rules for different areas, but the basis commonality is still the same. You don't pay, then there's a procedure and there's process, and you're out. So they're talking about a Texas tenant handbook, which is written by the Texas Lawmakers Association. Da, 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 da. And then they said the police aren't going to come remove the tenant before it goes to court. That would happen if the case goes to court and the judge rules the tenant should be evicted, but they do not vacate. In that case, if you do not appeal, you know, the more I think about this, and the more I'm reading about this, guys, I think that family member got evicted because of the pets. Maybe that family member did not report that they had pets. Who knows what the truth is, but it will come out. And then somebody else wrote, don't fight it. It'll just create more frustration. Just pack up, clean the place to how you moved in, then move in with a friend. It will be okay. This is what I'm saying, guys. Be respectful and clean out the place, because here is what I was saying. People don't want to hear what I have to say because they don't want to hear the truth. They don't want to hear it because they may already know and they don't want to hear it. But if you had spoken to someone and given someone the heads up to say, you know what? And I get it. We're busy. We think that we can handle it. We think that we're going to be able to make everything work out, and then things don't work out at the last minute or something fell through. I totally get it. But here is the thing. If that family member had opened their mouth and said something and said, hey, I was laid off and whatever, they could have made time to have a mover come and put their stuff up in storage. They could have done that. There's solutions out there. And you want to know something that I heard? Was I reading it or was I in Bible study? No, I was in church and they said, I forgot what the passage is, guys, but basically when we're in hard times, God always make a way out. There's always a way out. Sometimes when we're in the midst of confusion, when we're in the midst of our deep troubles, we don't stop and look and pray and trust in God and have faith that it's going to work out. You know what I mean? But God also blesses us with sense to help ourselves as well, meaning that you can look into stuff. You can have whatever. You can have a plan. You can do a research. You can look at your lease. We sign it. Hello. Also read what it is that you sign, people. Also read that. So from all the comments that I'm reading, because I type in eviction in Reddit, so somebody else wrote, you mean after you received the notice or after the date of the notice? So people are asking questions because they're curious too if it should happen to them. And so they're talking about their different areas, and it says, and somebody wrote, there are ways around it. Can you catch up? Have you tried asking government agencies for help? I'm shocked no one else has asked this. I agree. And then somebody else was giving the person help to say Basta has some, I don't know who Basta is, maybe it's an organization, has some great resources with several links, and they give them the link to follow. and a webinar recorded last year about tenant rights during evictions. So ever since this family member got evicted, I started doing a little bit of research myself because they have pets. And I was thinking to myself, what if, God forbid, I'm in the same situation? What am I going to do? Because I have a dog. Like I said, you try to think about, what do I do? So I asked my son, I said, here is the situation. What if we stay with a family member? God forbid we're evicted and then we have our dog and we have to stay with a family member, but that family member is allergic and can't stand dogs. What do we do? You know what my son's response was? Then we find someplace else. I think he gets a little bit of his ways from me. Because you cannot inconvenience somebody's life. And like I said, you have to be gracious. Because nowadays, nobody wants nobody up in their house. Everybody have their own problems. But there's still a few people that are so kind and gracious. But you cannot take people for granted, and you can't walk all over them. But there's lots of eviction notice. Let me just take one. So, here's a good one before I have to go. This person wrote that they came home to an eviction notice slapped on their door for unpaid fees of $200, which they had no idea were unpaid because they had no idea there were fees to be paid. Okay, sounds similar. Since I have 14 days to move out and the office is closed until tomorrow, so they can't query this. It doesn't say it's non-negotiable though. All rent has been paid and I have the bank statements to prove this, and I have no notice of any kind of any fee. So they're very confused as to what this is all about. So they're thinking it's a mistake or a lack of communication from their part, the management part, because they're still slightly worried. Any advice regarding this would be appreciated because it's stressing them out. And this is a lot of stress on all parts. So then they gave an update and it says, it seems like the issue has stemmed from a change of banks. They informed the landlord that they have changed banks and that updated the bank account by providing a void check. Okay. So let me tell you something. Something similar happened to me last year, where I was changing the bank accounts and it didn't process, and therefore it looked like I wasn't paying when the money was there. It just said, and they were slapping on fees, late fees, and they were slapping on return fees. And I was like, where are all these fees coming from? The money is there. And so I called the moment I realized that it was returned. Was it returned? No, it was rejected. It wasn't returned. It was rejected. And they charged me a return fee saying it was rejected. I was like, what? So basically, I called the moment that I saw that there was a confusion. And you know what they told me at the office? Oh, we don't see anything. Wait a couple more days. The longer I waited, they were waiting to slap on the fees. So you know what I did? I just said, you know what, Lisa, just breathe. You got this because you have proof. So then I went into the system to try and fix things myself and try and put it back to the original account. And I said, run it again. And it still wouldn't run. I said, something is not right? So they have it on record that I called twice. So here I am, waiting a couple more days again. So now we're super, super late. So now I called back and I said, I called twice. Good thing I got the same lady. And they should have it in their records, all the phone conversations anyway, right? And I said, I called twice. I spoke to you about it and da-da-da-da. And I said to her, if you can look at my account, you can see that I tried to change my bank account. Long story short, we now realize that the system would not accept my new bank account. They wanted the old one. So therefore so you know what? I said, well, since you recognize that there was a error on your end, please remove all fees. Let's say that the fees were, I'm going to give an example. Let's say that all the fees equaled up to $50. I'll speak to my manager. Do you know what they came back with? We're going to remove $47. I had to laugh. I was like, why would you remove 47? It wasn't that exact, but it was something to that. They didn't remove the full amount. And I was like, why wouldn't you remove the full amount of fees? I said, you know what? I'm not even going to argue about this little $6 or $5, but it's just the principle of the thing. And I was like, it's not my fault. We already proved that. But you know what? More to come on this because I feel like there's something else shady going on, but that's just me. But the truth will come out, trust me on that. Well, anyway, guys, we're coming close to the end of this podcast episode. I know I talked about a lot of things today, but the overall thing is that even if you are evicted or about to be evicted, please come up with a plan. Talk to somebody. I know there are lots of people nowadays that may not have any friends or family, but like I said, there should be is the key word, should be resources out there. And you want to know another thing too? Just because there's lots of resources out there, make sure that the phone numbers and the information about these resources are correct, and there isn't another process and process for people. I feel like if somebody's in need, it should be quick and easy. Quick and easy. That's just my 2 cents on that. If you are going through a hard time right now, I would say, pray with your family. Prayer does change things, and you just have to have faith and put in the work. Meaning that if you know that you are going to be laid off or that you're laid off, sit down with yourself, with your family, and talk about solutions, talk about options. Plan A. If we get a job, this is what we're going to do. And I feel that everyone in the family should be helping out. Here's a key thing that I left out. That family member that has a child that's in early 20s has not worked a day in their life. And I said years ago, I think that child should get a job and therefore help out that family member. But oh no, I ended up being the bad person because I voiced my opinion. So now it's like, I am not voicing my opinion to hurt you in any way. I am coming up with solutions. So at what age are you going to let this child work? That's what I would like to know. That's what I would like to know. That's what I would like to know. I really would like to know that answer. Because now, it's none of my business, people. It's really none of my business, but, it's not. But all I can say is that I hope everyone the best. I hope that people listen to other people. You may not take their advice, but listen to them. Talk to somebody else that you trust then. You know what I mean? I myself have to work on that people are completely different than I am. And people go through stuff. But at the end of the day, don't call and say it's an emergency when it shouldn't have been an emergency to begin with. And I think they said, and they waited until the last minute to say it was an emergency to get people to feel sorry for them. I know it may sound weird, but there's other situations that lead me to think that. Well, guys, I hope that you guys enjoyed this episode. Until next time, peace, love, bye.